think the earnestness of that quest is apparent in many ways, and I want to get back to compassion too as a root. But before we do there, I want to talk a little bit about the debate today, which seems to be hung between some strident atheists and some strident creationist fundamentalists, and reframing that debate, which I believe you're making a really great case for doing that. And one of the ways I think you began to do it for me in your book is the introduction of a character who I remember from philosophy a very long time ago, and I was so happy to meet again, Socrates. Can you tell us a little bit about what Socrates would be doing today in the midst of this debate?
Socrates would be holding a dialogue. Now, dialogue is one of the buzzwords at the moment. We're always talking about we must dialogue with this and dialogue with that, but we need dialogue here, but there's very little of it actually about in the Socratic sense. When people came to talk to Socrates, they thought that they knew what they were talking about. So a couple of generals in the Athenian army would come and talk with Socrates, who was also a veteran of the Peloponnesian War. And they'd all endured the terror of the battlefield, and so they all thought, I mean, at least, that not Socrates didn't, but the other two thought they knew exactly what courage was. But in their discourse about courage, after Socrates had questioned them relentlessly, taking apart the received ideas that they've got in their heads, they found at the end they didn't have a clue of what courage was. And they're left standing, or scratching their heads, and saying, now we've got to go back to school and start again. And a Socratic dialogue never ended with somebody defeating somebody else and forcing them into another frame of mind. A Socratic dialogue was actually a spiritual exercise. And Socrates said it would not work unless it was conducted at every single point with gentleness. That you would offer your opinion to your conversation partner as a gift, expressing it beautifully. And he would listen and allow it into his heart and give you something back too. No good entering one of these dialogues unless you're prepared to be changed by the encounter. Otherwise you get a diatribe. And Socrates always said, what you end up in a Socratic dialogue with unknowing. Now, we today are in a place where a lot of the things that we thought we'd got all sorted out have folded, in a sense. Our financial systems, people have lost trust in them. We've seen awful scandals there. Our foreign policies have clearly not been very effective. And also the environment, which we're going to be discussing in the next session. We are headed for an environmental crisis, and what do? We don't know. And Socrates would say, it's at that moment of unknowing when you realize the profundity of your ignorance, the profundity of all ignorance, that you become a philosopher. The word philosopher means a lover of wisdom. So for Socrates, the quest for wisdom is an ardent quest, like that of a lover. And you pursue wisdom because you know you don't have it. Right up to the end of his life, according to Plato, Socrates said, I am wise in one thing only, that I know I don't know anything. And that's one of the themes of my book. This also applies in religion. You know, people are always talking about God in a rather simplistic way, in an argumentative way, in a debating way. You know, the new atheists slam God and some kind of Christians slam back. And this is not dialogue. This is counterproductive. We are in a situation where We really need a Socratic dialogue because we don't know what's going to happen to us. We need to cast our old ideas, which applied to a different time, under what one of my other authors called a cloud of forgetting, and enter a cloud of unknowing, and express our ignorance, because this is part of the human condition. I mean, you get Einstein saying that to live in the when Einstein contemplated the indeterminate universe of quantum mechanics, he said to live in the presence of what we cannot understand or grasp brings profound joy. And Karl Popper said too that the most important thing was to say, I don't know. And he said that's the most, to say we don't know anything, that is the most important truth there is. That must also permeate also our understanding of God. We are in a cloud of unknowing. God is beyond what we can grasp. And you see, today, so often in our debates, whether we are debating in Parliament, in the media, in academia, or religion, we are not. It's not enough for us to seek the truth. We also want to defeat or even humiliate our opponents.